Hi everyone, this is KristinAnn from Bamboo Magazine, and I have the honor today of speaking with Lindsay Coulter, the Queen of Green for the David Suzuki Foundation. Thanks so much for joining us today, Lindsay.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, the Queen of Green, what a cool title. Where did that come from?
It started a few years ago. I've been at the foundation for about 5 years now. And honestly, the title sort of stemmed from after I had my own personal green wedding. I sort of internally became the expert in all things green living, from having a green vacation, how to have a green Christmas. And before you know it, yeah, I had the title on a business card.
And how did you become interested in getting involved with the David Suzuki Foundation, caring for the environment? Was there any sort of aha moment that you had?
Well, funny enough, when I was about 9 years old, I always loved animals and loved nature. And like many of us grew up with David Suzuki on the nature of things, watching the nature of things. And, I recall an aunt, when people used to ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always loved animals and knew I loved nature. And one day I said, I'm going to be like this with David Suzuki. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't really know what he did for a living, but I knew he loved nature and wanted to, save the planet. And he worked with animals and loved science. And that's what I thought I wanted to do. I didn't know what that looked like. So, I didn't stalk my way here. There was no direct path where I followed Dave Suzuki necessarily all my life. But when an opportunity came to move with my husband, who was from the West Coast, because he couldn't take another prairie winter. Uh, and everyone said, you're going to love it. You're going to love Vancouver. And sure enough, I did. And it's, pretty easy to go green here. And I applied at the David Suzuki Foundation for over about a year. I just applied for everything and anything. I didn't necessarily know what they worked on. But I figured it was, an organization that was definitely had similar values to mine.
Yeah, I definitely think it's one of those organizations that at the end of the day, you just feel so fulfilled when you're working there and the jobs that you're doing. How long have you been with the foundation now?
5 years. And one of my first jobs, I've had the privilege, of traveling across Canada with David Suzuki twice. I was here 2 months, and my first proposition was, how would you feel about traveling across Canada with David Suzuki on his book tour through, 30 Canadian cities? And, I had to contain my excitement. That was basically one of my first sort of assignments. And since then, I've traveled across Canada with him a second time. And yeah, I've been really lucky. And people here are just so passionate about their work, and they live it and breathe it, and it's a great place to live.
I know one of the things that you're really passionate about is this campaign for safe cosmetics. Can you tell our readers a little bit more about the Dirty Dozen in terms of beauty and what to look for when we're shopping for beauty products?
Sure, I would love to. This is a campaign called the Dirty, yeah, where we look at the Dirty Dozen cosmetic ingredients to avoid. And this isn't just for ladies, this is for men too. If you've ever used deodorant or a bar of soap, it's not just about makeup. And we've come down to 12 ingredients you should avoid. And really the most common ones are fragrance, also labeled as perfume, parabens, so these are preservatives. A lot of them are chemicals. They haven't been tested for safety on human health. And they're also in a wide range of products. It's actually quite impossible to avoid them. So we've designed things like a handy shopper's guide that you can find on our website, which will tell you which 12 to avoid. And basically it'll stop you from exposing yourself to cancer-causing chemicals, those that are disrupting hormones, and also ending up affecting the health of our fish and wildlife.
And do you have any favorite safe cosmetic brands or products? Because I know that there's two things that I always look for when I'm shopping. Number one being shampoo and conditioner. I really have a hard time finding any brands that are effective and still make my hair nice and shiny. And number two, deodorant.
That's, I get this question daily, and the trick with working here at the David Suzuki Foundation is we're an environmental nonprofit. We're a charitable organization, so I don't actually have the luxury of testing and rating and ranking products. Mm-hmm. So we don't endorse brands. But here's the tricks that I'll reveal to you.
Okay.
Aside from avoiding the dirty dozen, what you can do, because you don't need to memorize that list of chemical names, and it kind of sucks to have to defensively shop out there. So we are working for stronger laws so that you and I don't have to try to figure out what's a formaldehyde-releasing preservative and why it's in your mascara and your nail polish. Avoid fragrance. Honestly, avoid. It's almost always the last ingredient on like most of your products, except probably not in toothpaste, but it's in almost everything. So scroll down to the bottom, look for fragrance or parfum that's listed, and look for products not necessarily unscented because they can still put scent, believe it or not, in unscented products. But look for things without chemical fragrances. That'll help you avoid a lot of the junk. Other tips, you mentioned shampoo, like baking soda works like a dream. Your hair will never be softer. And you don't have to use it daily, you can use it once in a while, it just takes off all the buildup. And apple cider vinegar rinse is also gold. Cheap, a quarter cup of apple cider vinegar to a liter of water, and you pour it through after shampooing. And again, it just restores the acid, the pH balance of your scalp. And so that's the other thing that I do, because I can't tell you which brands to buy, unfortunately. I've got lots of tips and tricks and recipes and how-to videos on my website and Facebook page and on Twitter that will help you get there.
Awesome. That's great. And I was actually just reading an article the other day about how a lot of the European countries and countries like Japan and China, actually, when you go to the grocery store, they are starting to label the nutrient ingredients in vegetables and what they do for your skin and how healthy they are. And I think that eventually it's going to be so great to make it easy for people to shop organically for vegetables, find those nutrient values there, and also hopefully hope for the same when it comes to beauty and fashion as well.
When it comes to consumer products, the only things that have to have ingredient labels on them are food and cosmetics or personal care products. So the other thing that I'm passionate about is, green cleaning, like household cleaners and all those other consumer products, whether it's, lead in your TV or flame retardants in your mattress. None of those things actually have to be labeled. So, the one thing that's good is that food does have to be labeled a bit better. That's really cool about the article that you mentioned. I hadn't read that, but often the European Union, that's what we're challenging Canadian laws, is to be a little more in line with a lot of the companies and manufacturers. They make the same product. They make a product for the EU without a lot of the toxic chemicals, and then they make us in Canada a different version because our laws just don't ask to have it out. So it's kind of frustrating.
And you mentioned that you're now living in Vancouver, and I myself have been there for a few years now. And there are so many great outdoor activities that you can do there year round to feel really close to the earth. Do you feel like that really sways people's opinions on how closely connected they are to the earth and how much they want to protect Mother Earth?
That's an interesting question. I know when I came from the prairies, moving from Alberta, what I was really struck by is like everyone here runs, and everyone's always outside. A lot of people get out of their cars, they take public transit, there's bike lanes actually that work that you can use here. And there's outdoor activities, everything from a walk on the beach to going snowboarding or going sailing. I mean, there's tons of things to do in Vancouver. I think the real key to getting people outdoors and the way I think about it with sustainable living, getting out of your cars, is having walkable neighborhoods. So it's really important to have cities that are built where you can work, live, and play in the same area. You don't always have to. The first thing I did when I moved from Alberta was sell my car, because you just don't need one here. I'm lucky enough to be able to walk to work and live 10 blocks from the ocean, and it's a real treat.
I agree. I went to school in Los Angeles, and of course I lived by the beach, but I went to school downtown, and there, I mean, the transit is just awful, and there's really no options right now for transportation without having a car. And then I had moved to Montreal from there and sold my car. I mean, the Montreal public transport system is just amazing. It's definitely a walkable city. You can totally get around with bikes. And I was really surprised actually, because people would even bike in the snow and bike throughout the winter. And as well as in Vancouver, I mean, I never had a car. And I know that when I was moving apartments, I use Zipcar, but beyond that, I mean, it just makes things so easy when you're in a city like that.